What's up, ladies and gents? I'm with Favno, and I'm here with Dawkins, and it is our weekly sports show. We don't have a name for it. We just call it the weekly sports show, and we talk about the top stories in sports. Um, Tox sometimes joins us. He, um, I think he has to work this week. Last week he was here. It was awesome to have him here. But yeah, if you guys have any comments or concerns or questions or topics, I think I set it up so that you can post your questions on the YouTube thing. Like there's like I set up this app. I did this Q&A app, and I don't know if it works. I don't know how to use it. I just said, do you want to use this app? I said yes, please. Click yes. Okay, I agree. Bam, it's out there. So if you're watching the stream, there should be a question and answers app that you click. I think it's different than the comments thing. So that may be easier for us to interact with you guys as well as you guys to interact with us. So definitely check that out. Again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine too, because I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I'm always here with Miles talking 24/7. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Ready to talk some sports. Want to clarify some things, or at least one thing. Last week, I was quoted as saying that Jason Hamill was a starting pitcher for the A's, and because I'm not the best baseball knowledge guy or whatever, I felt like I looked it up. You know what I mean? I remember seeing some stuff on him and stuff like that. And Tox and my man Living 5-0 both let me know that he was a long reliever, but it turned out that he is a starting pitcher for the A's, and he started 4 games. He had his first win last night, but his previous 4 before last night, his ERA was in the nines, and that's why I thought that the Lester move, even though I'm a miss Cespedes, made some type of sense. Again, I don't always try to side with Billy Bean. I would love to see Cespedes play as an ace for his whole career. I feel like that wouldn't happen. But at the end of the day, I feel like when you rely on pitching so much, you can't have a starting pitcher going into the playoffs, with the ERA over 7, over 5. We all want that ERA down, 3, 4 range and stuff like that. So that's why I was saying that I liked the Lester move. Or not that I liked it, but I got it.
Okay,
Just wanted to
cool.
clarify.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Henry. Awesome, you're available. Okay, so I opened this questions app. We're still learning, guys. I'm really like bad with technology. I can't even answer my phone. So hey, I'm available. Send me an invite. Okay, so I click select. Uh, what what was that? Okay, yes. Okay. What? Done answering this question. What am I doing? I don't know. Okay, again, I don't know how he did it. I don't know what's going on, but I will send him an invite. So I don't know what happens. This is crazy. Okay, so we're bringing in Toxin here. Okay, just doing my thing. Yeah. This week my week has been awesome. I've been streaming every day for at least 2 hours a day. I try to get 2 hours in. Um, and so far it's been really fun. People have been coming back. We've been talking sports. I've been getting into it with people about Derek Jeter and his role playing ability. People get mad at me
Yeah,
about that.
that's insane.
We can get into that, I guess, a little bit. And yeah, gonna go see Guardians of the Galaxy tonight. I heard that movie
Nice.
was off the chain, so that should be fun. But yeah, we got lots to talk about. So let's start with it. And again, please submit your questions using the Q&A app, and then we can see them right here on our side of the screen right here. So that'll be kind of cool. But
Yes, sir.
um, let's start with talking about the NBA basketball FIBA thing. If you guys haven't heard, the that is getting kicked off. This FIBA tournament where the U.S. National Team Basketball Association, or whatever it's called, selects their best and brightest who decide if they want to play and don't want to injure themselves. Then they decide, and they decide, okay, let us put together a team. So I put together a team. I don't know if any of you guys caught the horrific injury to Paul George, but they go around the country doing showcases for fans and to get their stamina up and their skills up and stuff like that. So they had to make some cuts. Some alarming cuts to some people was that John Wall, Bradley Beal did not make the team. But at the same time, if you look at their team right now, oh, and this just in, Kevin Durant also pulled out, so he's not going to be there, which may open up a spot for John Wall or Bradley Beal to come in. Paul Millsap didn't make it. Derrick Rose made it. Uh, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Dawkins, what was your initial reaction when you saw the names that were going to be taken with us to the FIBA tournament?
I'm okay with them. You know what I mean? I would like to see John Wall and Bradley Beal. They're two of the up and coming stars in the NBA. But at the end of the day, when you have point guards like Derrick Rose, who has been balling in practice and in the little showcase game, it's kind of hard to say that he isn't worthy of making it. Steph Curry, one of my favorite players. I can't see. I can't really put a reason why to leave him off for John Wall. So I get that. I think, and I remember watching the practices and the announcers saying that the final point guard position is probably gonna come down to Damian Lillard and John Wall, and I kind of agree with that. And I guess Coach K felt like maybe Damian Lillard had a better I guess, practices, better showcase, maybe fit what the team wanted to do better. I really don't know. But this whole thing about it's a big deal. To me, it's not really a big deal. They try to say it's the FIBA World Cup. It's really not. It's really just the FIBA Championships. It's not a World Cup. It's not on the world stage. You know what I mean? I think it would be a lot better if, maybe like the second tier players, and I mean really second tier players, make this team. And I think that's why Kevin Durant put out. He was quoted as saying that, he was mentally drained from the season. You know what I mean? And that makes absolute sense. He had a deep playoff run. He won the MVP. You know what I mean? It's back-to-back seasons that him and the Oklahoma City Thunders have been deep into the playoffs. So he said that he's mentally and physically drained. He has not too much to gain from winning a FIBA World Cup championship. There's really not too much to gain. You know what I mean? Yeah, it might look good on the resume, but if he doesn't win an NBA championship, having all those FIBA championships or having all those USA gold medals from the Olympics really isn't going to replace an NBA championship. So I respect his decision. I'm okay with his decision. He has less to gain from doing this than resting his body for the upcoming NBA season.
Yeah. You made a great point saying this. Nothing like the World Cup and all that stuff, because Ginobili decided not to compete for Argentina. He's been competing over the last couple tournaments, but he decided not to compete because, well, the Spurs have the ability to decide if they want, like every team has the ability to decide whether they want their player to play in this tournament, which is kind of weird, but they decided to not let Ginobili play, so that really shows how important it is to even the players. I feel like it's more of a showcase for the younger players to kind of put eyes on them. But, yes, there was that run when the Dream Team was kicking butt, okay, and that was awesome. And then there was a time when the Dream Team 2.0 was not, and they got like bronze or whatever in the Olympics, and people were like, oh, the Dream Team's dead, USA sucks at basketball. And then they came back and they won. But as I'm sitting here, well, actually, right now, yeah, I'm sitting here right now, and I'm saying, I don't care. Like, this whole tournament, this whole FIBA thing, yes, I'll tune in a little bit because I want to see D Rose. It's kind of like spring training, I want to see D Rose. I'm going to see what he's going to bring to the Chicago Bulls next year and all this other stuff. And I was hoping to see George, but that's not going to happen. So I really, really want to see them play, but I could care less about the outcome. Like, there's no patriotism in me, at least, for this team. And then when they're going up against, like, what is it, like Iran or South Korea in basketball, it's like, come on, man. Like, do they play over there, or are we just like, doing like, is a team from like a high school gym, So I don't want to diss anyone, but I'm just saying that for me, it's not very interesting, really. But
yeah, it's not. It's just something for these guys to do, during the, I guess off season and stuff like that. Again, I wish that it would be that. I wish that this would be delegated to maybe the rookies that came in and stuff like that, because then I think people might have more interest in it. Seeing some of the rookies play, because having our best players, even though LeBron's not in it, KD dropped out, Kobe isn't in it and stuff. Like Steph Curry is still good, D Rose is still good. You have all these other great players going over there, and it's like at the end of the day, like I think that we as sports fans, we love to see highlights, but we love to see a competitive game. And most of the time, none of these games versus the U.S. is competitive, because a lot of times the U.S. just blows these teams out. And the only time that the USA was down is like it was really close. It was after 9/11, and the Olympics were going over, overseas to those like third world countries, and a lot of the star players didn't want to go. Like Tracy McGrady, back then, he made a comment that he didn't want to go because he didn't want, to be, at risk of getting hurt or terrorist attacks and stuff like that. So, like, that was the only time. But for the most part, USA has been dominant in basketball. So there's not that same interest.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I'm going to click this select answering thing. Okay. So, still haven't received group hangout invite to you. Let me, you know what I'll do? I'll do this. Okay, so I got the link. I'll just send you a link through Facebook of to the thing here. Where are you? I'll send you a link to the hangout on Facebook in a message or whatever. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, click that link and that should take you here. All right, again, you guys, if you guys are watching, ask questions using that thing and we will answer them, and I really don't know if that works or what, but yes. Okay, so let's talk about the next thing. Let's talk about the next topic. Dawkins, what do you feel like talking about, man? What are you kind of itching at the mouth to talk about?
We got to talk about your comments on your stream.
Oh, jeez.
About Derek Jeter being a role player, and about how some people feel like Ichiro isn't a future Hall of Famer because typing things down doesn't let everything like come out. You know what I mean? So to me, and I always go back to previous conversations. And I remember a conversation that we had. I believe it was here. Maybe it was in the stream. And you were hinting at maybe they should retire Derek Jeter's number. League-wide. League-wide. Not this, AL, but the whole MLB. Retire it league-wide. And you don't suggest that for somebody who's a role player. Now, if you take Derek Jeter and you put him on a bad team, most likely that team will still be bad. Most likely that team will still be bad if you put Derek Jeter on a bad team, because in baseball, it's really hard to put one person on a team and suddenly that team is just a playoff team. Suddenly that team is a World Series contender. So I totally agree with you that Derek Jeter, his rings might be a product of playing with other great players. I totally agree with you. There's a reason why I dislike the Yankees for the longest time, is because I always feel like they bought championships. But the one thing that was always constant in New York was number 2. That was the one thing that was constant. You knew that nobody was ever going to play harder than Derek Jeter, especially in the playoffs, especially World Series time. Nobody was going to play harder than him. Even though he played with great players, he was the greatest of the great. You know what I mean? So I feel like Derek Jeter isn't a role player. When I think of, and you brought up a great point comparing him to Cal Ripken Jr., And like you were saying, even with Chipper Jones, he didn't really have that signature defensive play. We all know, we all know Derek Jeter, the backhand, turning, throwing in midair as he's spinning around. Like, that's classic Derek Jeter. So at the end of the day, he's more than just a product of playing with great players, because he's one of the greatest of all time. You know what I mean? And to me, I look at Cal Ripken as a third baseman. That's just me, not a diehard baseball fan like you are. You know what I mean? So that's just my opinion on it. But at the end of the day, I think, everything that Derek Jeter is getting, I think is well-deserved. Maybe the whole tour, the whole retirement tour is a product of ESPN. That might be the case. but I really don't have a problem with it because he has been, one of the best players on one of the best teams over the past 15 years. So I don't have a problem with it. It does kind of get on my nerves with all the coverage and stuff like that, but for the most part, he's deserving. And if this is his last year, let him go out with the same type of, or with this type of send off, because I really don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Tox,
Praise.
welcome to the stream, Tox. How you doing?
Good. How's it about you guys?
Doing pretty good, man.
I'm doing awesome. I don't know what happened with that invite, man. I do apologize.
No worries, man.
So we're talking about Derek Jeter right now. Is he a ball player? And what do you think about Derek Jeter, Tox? Do you think that this whole U.S. tour, everyone giving him these standing ovations and all this stuff, do you think that he deserves it, or do you think that it's kind of getting blown out of proportion?
I think he totally deserves it. I mean, especially how he came up through the Yankees farm system. That's like no easy task to come up through the Yankees farm system and be a star on the Yankees, like through their whole farm system. Like that's especially when they had a David Justice and everything like that back then when he first came up, and it's just I think it's well deserved for him, especially at the shortstop position, because the shortstop position is a really tough place to play because you do see a lot of action coming your way, and you have to always be able to maintain like a lot of agility and everything like that, and that a lot of players can't do that. A lot of baseball players can't play that position and have that dexterity like he has. What Dawkins was saying about his signature twist and turn and throwing over the shoulder to first base and everything like that. So, and for the amount of time that he's been playing baseball in general, I mean, baseball is like if you don't maintain a high level, especially in New York, you are either going to be let go, traded, or you're just going to be retiring early or have to succumb to injuries. And luckily for him, he's been able to avoid all that. And become like and had become a legend and a staple for New York Yankees alongside a lot of their greats. So to be able to do that is well deserved on his part, and as well as just how the way he acts, like not just on the field but off the field too. I mean, you don't see him acting the way like an A-Rod would or whatnot, and as well as he's never been really the focus of the steroid scandals and everything, and he's had really good seasons, and even some of his lackluster seasons have been at least a little bit better than the average shortstop player or baseball player, and so you can't really take that away from him either. And to command the captaincy of the New York Yankees as he has over these years is definitely well deserved. I mean, the accolades of him, the spotlight tour from him is definitely ESPN's tribute to him, more or less, I guess you could say. But I mean, for every other fan and everything out there, it's their final opportunities to be able to pay their tributes to him, because they'll never see a player like him, especially at his position, playing as well as he did, and to make so many people laugh, cry, and even hate him, but still respect him, especially Red Sox fans now. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I think, is that it's definitely from a thing that ESPN has hyped up, but at the same time, though, it's everything that's coming to him now is definitely well deserved.
Yeah. Very well put. Very well put, boys. I've been talking about this for the last couple days, going back and forth with people, and there's been some there's been some heated exchanges, to say the least. I respect Jeter for everything that he's done to the game, for the game. His signature throws, like you guys have mentioned, are awesome. But I still wouldn't take him number one if I'm creating a franchise. And I do truly believe that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He does. But I mean, if there's someone I can compare him to in another sport, it would be Tim Duncan. Just Mr. Fundamental. You know what he's going to give you. You know what he's going to. I mean, he's great. He's great at his position. One of the best players there. But if somebody like Nomar Garciaparra won all those rings, he would be Derek Jeter. And there's nothing. I mean, Jeter had the luxury of being on a team that bought players to win championships. And he also had the luxury of being on a team where players would come and go for injury reasons or steroid reasons or age or whatever. Like, he was in a very good position in New York. And, I mean, me personally, I love the guy. I'm going to miss watching him play. I have mad respect for him. I loved watching him and all that stuff. But if I had to pick a franchise player between, for example, him and Chipper, I'm picking Chipper. If I had to pick him or Griffey, I'm picking Griffey. If I'm picking him or Bonds, I'm picking Bonds. If I'm picking Tulowitzki or Jeter, I'm picking Tulo. You know, so it's just like Jeter is a great player, but he needs help around him to make a team. He was in the best position to be in New York. Like I said, people just the Steinbrenner family just poured money into players to bring them in. So yeah, I mean,
If you had to pick a shortstop over him, who would it be? Because in baseball, people get Gold Gloves for that position. You know what I mean? It's not like a top Gold Glove throughout the whole league. It's by position.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, would you take another shortstop over Derek Jeter? Because again, I totally agree with you. I'm totally with you that he could not, I don't think, carry a team
like
to a
Griffey
championship.
or Bonds, you know?
But let's be real. Bonds doesn't have a ring. Let's be real. Ken Griffey, even though he was playing with Alex Rodriguez, even though he had a great pitcher in Randy Johnson, he never won a ring. You know what I mean? So I totally agree with you, but we also can't forget that baseball doesn't have a salary cap. Back then, didn't have a salary cap. The New York Yankees was the only team with their own network, so their pockets were a lot deeper. So I can't look at Derek Jeter and be like, oh man, you know, he won all those championships because he was playing with great players. So he's less of a player than these guys. Now I totally agree with you. I would take Ken Griffey over him. I can't say that I could take another infielder over Derek Jeter. I like Chipper Jones. I really do. I like Chipper Jones. You know what I mean? But
But again, I got something to add too. It's
I like Cal Ripken too. But just for me, because he was there in his prime, he was there all the time. I know Cal Ripken has the record for most games consecutive play. I get that, but I just feel like for me, Derek Jeter is that dude. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that he's the Michael Jordan of the sport and nobody else is close. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying for me, as far as infield is concerned, I would probably go with Derek Jeter and then Cal Ripken and then, you know, Chipper Jones. But it's not so far out where Cal Ripken couldn't catch him, in my opinion. Just for my team, I would go with Derek Jeter if I'm going to pick an infield player first.
Go ahead, Tax. You had something to say.
Oh yeah, I was agreeing with some what Dawkins was saying, and I mean, as well as you two, living about the part where just that he isn't like the biggest monster player like in ever to play baseball. That's for sure. But at the same
so why
time,
are you all like standing over? Okay, go ahead. Sorry. You're like, I don't know. Like, go ahead.
But I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if you're a monster player. I mean, even just look right now. Even though Paul Goldschmidt just got injured for the rest of the season, he's like a monster player. for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and now the Arizona Diamondbacks are even way worse off and probably going to lose the rest of their games. No, they're not going to. They may win one or two or a few the rest of the season, but they're not. They're like to have a cornerstone player, even like what Dawkins was saying earlier with the Tulowitzki, he's injury prone. Derek Jeter has not been the most injury prone player either. Griffey's had a few seasons hurt. Bonds has had quite a few big name players around him too, like a Jeff Kent.
Nice. I like that name. Good job.
And so I mean, you can't say that all these big names didn't have at least a few people with them to help, and as well as the cornerstone players. I would say he is a cornerstone player that you can build around off of, especially for the infield position. So then you can get yourself maybe like an Adrian Beltre to play like left field, or I mean to play third base and things like that, because he doesn't command the salary as those big cornerstone players, so that helps too when you're looking at a franchise player too. So then it doesn't fully break your wallet the whole time either. So then you can always build your team up. And from that position, there's not the depth of the shortstop position, especially with consistency, isn't that high. So I feel like, especially throughout all of baseball, like through the years too, he's just been one of the players that's been able to grasp everything and to grasp the city of New York, where a lot of players have tried to. Some of them succeed, a lot of them don't, and get traded or retire early, like I was saying earlier, or are too injury prone. I mean, and but again, I don't want to take away too that, I mean, like when he first came up too, like the Yankee system, even though that they bought a lot of players, they did have when he was coming up they did have a good farm system with bringing up Jorge Posada,
yep,
as well as Mariano Rivera and everything like that, and Andy Pettit. So I mean, it's just for me, I feel like he'd be somebody that is able to withstand like the spotlight, and be so consistent and such a good player at shortstop that, especially in a market like New York, that why wouldn't you not take him? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. I mean, you make a great point. Yeah, I mean, I have to give him props for coming up in an organization where they sell more, they trade more of their prospects, and they give a shot to their prospects. So I definitely have to give him props for making it up there. And you make great points, for sure. Do you guys have anything to add on this topic before we move on to whether Ichiro should go into the Hall of Fame?
I think just last thing, because I think putting my, I guess, foot in your shoe or whatever. I totally agree with where you're coming from, Living, but I think his character has a lot to do with why he's getting all this acclaim as well. You know what I mean? He might not have been the most athletic player. He might not have been, the most elegant at the bat. When I think of somebody's swing, I always think of Ken Griffey. You know what I mean? But for me, his character, it goes a long way. For the fact that Red Sox fans who hate the Yankees respect Derek Jeter, I think that goes a long way.
And he's not suing the Players Association either, or he never tried to anyways.
Yeah, for using roids.
And he was a cover boy for 2K Baseball for like 10 years. Also.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah. All right, awesome. Again, thanks anyone that's watching. Post your comments. Okay, so apparently if you're watching, because while you guys talking, I was looking up help on this Q&A thing. Apparently if you're watching the stream and you click the be part of the conversation, click to join live Q&A on Google Hangouts. If you click that little annotation there, then you should be able to pose questions and we can answer them right there. And it's a whole lot easier than dealing with those comments, because you know me and those comments. So that is a whole lot easier. But yeah, okay, awesome. So let's talk about another thing that's been invading my chat room recently. Ichiro making it to the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm on the side of, well, okay, at first I was on the side of, okay, he needs to go. And then I'm still over there a little bit, but I'm leaning towards maybe he shouldn't go. If you look at him Um, a lot of people were making the point that he's more flash than style. You compare him to Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter is style, but he has game. Yes, Ichiro can hit the ball. We all know this, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about it? Should Ichiro get into the Hall of Fame?
When I think of Ichiro, I always remember the long hit streaks that he goes on. And I'm talking about like in his prime with Seattle. He always went on these ridiculously long hit streaks. You know what I mean? He's always been a player to get on base. And that was his job as a leadoff hitter to get on base. He's won an MVP. He's won countless Gold Gloves. When I think of Ichiro, I think of a Hall of Famer. Um, I don't know why anybody would say that they would lose respect for the Hall of Fame if this guy gets in. He was doing things when he first got into the league, like he was doing things that a lot of people didn't think that he could do. You know what I mean? Like he was robbing people in center field. He was stealing bases. He was getting on base ridiculously. His batting average is over 3. I believe it's 317 or whatever. So to me, he's always been a consistent player. Now that he's with the Yankees, he's not the same player that he once was. But for his days in Seattle, I believe that he is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree with those sentiments too, especially since he came into the major leagues later in his career because him playing in Japan. So he didn't start out through the farm system in the major leagues. He played like quite a few of his career in Japan before making the switch over here. And to be able to play as he did coming over, because at that time a lot of people always question, and some even still question, players coming over from the Japanese league, but they don't question them as much now anymore because of just all the Japanese players have been able to back up their playing skills with all the hype right now. But yeah, he was pretty much, I would say, one of the big cornerstone players from Japan that led that wave of players that could be able to make that transition from that league into the major leagues and be a superstar in a city where a lot of people just don't have Seattle as like a powerhouse team, but when in his prime though they were pretty much a powerhouse team almost. Making the playoffs pretty consistently, and him being like that catalyst of a player for them. And again, yeah, he's won awards as well too, like a lot of other Hall of Famers. The only thing that I think kind of feel like that some people may have that doubt against too is his stature size. Like they don't see him like anybody like as a player that could be like that superstar because of his skinny length, and as well as just because he doesn't have he's not a power player, he's a contact hitter and everything like that, and people don't give as much respect to contact hitting than they do to a power hitting.
Ooh, nice.
And so when you do that, you just take away from the potential of players that can be far superior than a power hitting player, because they're the ones that are setting the table for those power hitters and everything like that, and that's what he did, and always terrorized the pitchers into making mistakes because he was on those base paths running because he was really fast then too, and everything like that. And so I feel that definitely he's deserved to be a Hall of Famer, and that especially since then that just gives more, I guess you could say, you'll bring a more of a larger fan base from the Asian League, because then they'll have they'll have a actual Japanese player that made the Hall of Fame that they can look up to, and so that's like one of the things, like I was saying earlier, is him bringing that wave of players from Japan that can start playing consistently over here in the major leagues. And so for him to be able to do that, I applaud him, especially during a time where a lot of people just didn't think that the transition from the Japanese league to the major leagues was possible, really. that they would just flutter. They would maybe have one good season and then just flutter and die off in the league, so to speak.
Yeah. Um, one of the reasons why, no matter how many people spam my chat and say that I'm dumb about this, uh, I think that we're all on the same page. And I think it's different because when I think of Ichiro, because while I was listening to you guys talk about it, I was thinking about, okay, so what do I remember Ichiro for? And Dawkins, you hit the nail right on the head. You know, his hit streaks, his amazing arm out there in the outfield, his speed, his stance. That's what he was. And there's no way in my mind that you can't put him in there. And this is really what bugs me. And maybe I'll get into this a little bit later, but this is really what bugs me is, unfortunately, with the voters and with the baseball fans, the ESPN and a person's city and a person's team has about 80% of the impact about whether they go into the Hall of Fame. And it sucks because if you look at Jeter and you look at Ichiro, you can make an argument that people would choose Ichiro over Jeter in his prime. But Jeter is a first ballot Hall of Famer. A lot of people are saying that. People are questioning whether Ichiro should go in. Unfortunately, Ichiro really did. Unfortunately, Ichiro only did have Edgar Martinez for a little bit, kind of toward the end of his career as that power guy. And he was, and I remember this crazy quote by Ichiro when he said, when it was asked if he could ever become a power hitter or if he ever thought about becoming a power hitter, he said, "Oh, he could hit 500, he could hit 50 home runs if he really wanted to, but he always liked hitting those singles and doubles and triples and stuff, and he never really tried to do a power swing. He always did a contact swing." So he's one of the most pure hitters that I've seen in my lifetime, and I really, really do want him to get into the Hall of Fame, and I hope that people don't use the argument that, oh, well, he got all those hits in the Japanese League and stuff like that. We'll take those 200 hits out of the Japanese League then and just use the stats.
I was looking up some stats.
He's automatically a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I was looking up some stats, and combined, he has over 4,000 hits if you combine his career in Japan. If you take all those hits out, he's only 200 hits away right now from 3,000 in the major leagues. That's crazy, right? You know, because if you think about it, he was playing at a high level throughout the first part, throughout 2001 to 2010, he was really playing on a high level. He only played on a good team, really, 2001, 2, and 3. You know what I mean? So, 10-time All-Star, you know what I mean? AL MVP, stolen base champion. Silver Slugger champion, or Silver Slugger award, 3 times in his career. To me, he's a Hall of Famer, especially when baseball is predicated so much on stats too. You got to have him in there. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I think that's kind of a detriment to what he meant to Seattle for the longest time. But he should definitely get in.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys agree that a person's team has an effect on whether they go into the Hall of Fame?
Some respects. I mean, you don't see too many Hall of Famers coming from the Astros and everything like that.
Right? Great point.
Kansas City, you don't see really any. Didn't see any with Montreal when Expos when they were around and everything like that. So.
That's true, but imagine if Pedro would have played his whole career in Montreal. I think he would have been a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? I think Bagwell and Biggio, I think that they would get in one day. If Roger Clemens wasn't accused of steroids, he would probably get in. But most people remember him, playing in the AL East with Toronto and Boston, of course, the Yankees. But he also played for the Astros. I think in baseball, because of the way it's set up, you don't have the great players stay in mediocre. I guess on mediocre teams and in mediocre markets, you know what I mean? So, the fact that Cal Ripken played his whole career in Baltimore, that's more credit to him. You know what I mean? And I totally agree with you, Living, going back to Derek Jeter. If Derek Jeter wasn't a Yankee, then maybe, his star doesn't shine as bright. I totally agree with that. But in baseball, it's so hard to see good players stay on bad teams. You know what I mean? Aeneas Williams, Aeneas Williams in the NFL, he just got inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, played 10 years for the Arizona Cardinals, only made it to the playoffs one time.
Much
You know what
respect.
I mean? Exactly. So it's like that right there, you see more in football, because football is probably one sport where the market doesn't matter. Even in the NBA, market kind of matters, you know what I mean? But more so in baseball, because if you want to win a championship, especially in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, it was like, go to the Yankees. You know what I mean? That really what it was. If you're trying to win a championship, go to the Yankees, go to the Red Sox, you know what I mean? Not too many people want to play for the Astros, for whatever reason. So that's why I think you don't see Kansas City, the Expos when they existed, you know what I mean, or the Astros with too many or any Hall of Famers at all.
Yeah. Ichiro or Jeter, who would you pick?
Whew. If these are the only two people that I could pick, like, for my team to start off,
Yeah.
I'm probably going with Ichiro, because imagine his stats if he would have played at a young age like Derek Jeter did in
Right.
MLB.
Yeah.
Imagine what he could do. I believe he won 3 or 4 MVPs over in Japan, and I know that maybe the talent's not as great, obviously, but imagine what he could do, because I believe he started his career in 94, 96 over in there in Japan. Well, you put him on that Seattle team, Alex Rodriguez batting after him. Ken Griffey batting after him. You have an ace like Randy Johnson. That Seattle team probably wins a couple of championships. You know what I mean? So for me, I'll probably take Ichiro over Derek Jeter, just because I feel like talent-wise he's more superior. But again, Derek Jeter, class act, champion, all those other things.
Yeah, I would agree with Dawkins with that too, especially since you want that guy at the top to consistently be
Get on base, exactly.
and be able to wreak havoc on the base paths, and be able to have your player to have at least one player on your team to always be a threat to score in any given inning at any time, pretty much, and that's what Ichiro was. It was a constant threat to players at the plate and on the base paths and in the outfield. Like, it was always a threat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the NBA a little bit, I know that it kind of slept into our conversation a little bit. Sources have informed ESPN, and thus ESPN has told the world, that Kevin Love will be a Cleveland Cavalier. Obviously, they can't make it official yet.
It's a handshake deal right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about that trade?
I don't know.
It's just Miami 2.0 pretty much, but I mean at the same time though, just because they have all those 3 players doesn't mean like they can't not be beat. I mean, look at the Spurs, what they did. I mean, against the Miami Big Three, who everybody thought was going to win. So I mean, they still don't have like that awesome bench coming off, and a lot of their players are still pretty much. I mean, Mike Miller, he's still a constant knockdown shooter, but at the same time, he's pretty old and can be a liability on defense. So I mean, you have 3 great players, but then the Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love will have to change their game style to LeBron James' style and everything like that, and and everything. And so it's just a matter of seeing how quickly they can adjust to each other's game once the season starts and everything like that. Because even with like when the Big Three in Miami just started up, it took them a while in the season just to get used to each other, and then they still even lost in their first season in the playoffs. There's still that high risk of them not being able to meet expectations or meet whatever, but yeah, pretty much meet expectations of winning an NBA championship. Of course, it does help them a little just because they are playing in the East compared to the consistently playing in the West against all the competition in the West, where it's more physical. I feel more physical in the West and everything, harder to play in with, and so you got to give them a little credit to that to be able to play in the East. So they'll have more, I guess, more of a chance to make it to the NBA Finals than a lot of the other teams.
Absolutely. I don't think that this move makes the Cavs better than the top 2 or 3 teams in the West, but when you have a great player like LeBron James, he's going to make everything work out. You know what I mean? And like Tok said, this is really Miami 2.0. You have a power forward that can shoot mid-range, shoot the three, better rebounder than Chris Bosh. A liability on defense, though. I think Chris Bosh is a much better defender than Kevin Love. Kyrie Irving, he's a scoring point guard right now, but that might be more so because he hasn't really had any other talent to play with, any other talent to really give the ball to. So he could definitely fit in that Dwayne Wade type of role, you know. But looking at it for Minnesota, I think it's a fantastic move for them because Kevin Love wants out. Kevin Love's not going to be there after this season. You get Wiggins, and Wiggins, you know, he every rookie's on a 2-year deal, but again, he's probably going to get signed for a longer deal after this season's up or after his second season. So Minnesota's essentially going to have him for 5 to 6 seasons. So I hope Minnesota puts a team around this young fella because I feel like Wiggins can become, you know, one of the top players in this league. For the Cavs standpoint, you really don't know what you're gonna get with Wiggins. Maybe you're trying to win now, but looking at LeBron James and his legacy, you know, the fact that he has to play with All-Stars, the fact that he has to play with 2 All-Stars, his 2 All-Stars in the starting lineup, to me, it's gonna hurt his legacy. It always does. You know what I mean? Whenever you have to surround yourself with like the best players, so. I do understand the move. I like the move for Minnesota. You have a young, up-and-coming player. You know what I mean? You got the first overall pick in the draft. So, you know, the future is looking good for Minnesota. But for the Cavs, if y'all don't win this year, don't win next year, you know, LeBron James says that he's going to stay. But it's like, man, if he can't get it, if he lost 2 finals with, you know, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, you know what I mean? Who's to say that he's not going to lose a final or 2 with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love? And I think that's just going to hurt his legacy even more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially those cramps, man. Those cramps.
The cramps. The cramps.
Yep.
When I first heard about this, my first thought was, man, poor Andrew Wiggins. Young guy, just wants to play, just wants to make an impact in the league. A lot of popularity right now. People were comparing him as like possibly becoming a LeBron-esque player. He sounded excited to be in Cleveland. He wanted to learn from LeBron. It's like, okay, you know what, this is gonna be my city for a long term, and then they ship him off. So disrespectful, and this is how you create a team that is going to be the most hated team in all of the NBA. How could you possibly do this? It makes no sense. And again, Dawkins, it goes back to your point. LeBron needs these pieces. He will never go down as a Kobe, as a Jordan like this. This was his chance to prove that, hey, you know what, maybe I can get it done by myself with maybe some pieces. You know, maybe some pieces, but not that big.
Some help, but not like another. Like, yeah. Go ahead, man.
No, yeah, exactly. And it's like, now you bring in Kevin Love, like you said, Chris Bosh 2.0. It's ludicrous. And you know what, Andrew Wiggins, you now have a fan. I hope that you go to Minnesota. I hope that you freaking win some championships. Because LeBron James, yes, I was a fan of yours a little bit this year in the offseason. I started, you know, getting to like you a little bit more. You went home, you showed your true colors, quote unquote, and you shouldn't have left and all that other jazz. But now I mean, as a Cavs organization, you're throwing away your future, hoping that you can win a championship. And I know that Cleveland's desperate for that championship. We all know this. But you don't throw away your future. Why even make all this stuff? I mean, why even have a draft? Why are you even participating in the draft? Why not trade the number 1 pick? It makes no sense drafting these guys. You're giving up 2 first-round picks, your last 2 first-round picks for Kevin Love. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And I hope that the Cleveland Cavaliers don't even sniff the playoffs. Unfortunately, I think they will. Unfortunately, I think they'll probably get like the 6th seed or something like that. But, gosh, this trade is so dumb. And as a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, they're the new Heat fans. They really are. They're the new Heat fans.
I agree with you for the most part. I don't think that the Cavs are going to be hated. I don't think that LeBron James is going to receive any hate for this because a lot of people even I said I think it's a good move because you know what you're gonna get from Kevin Love. Now the sky is the limit for Andrew Wiggins. But again, if they're trying to win now, I respect the move. I don't think that this necessarily turns them into Miami 2.0 as far as the hatred. I just see Kyrie fitting that D Wade role and Love fitting that Chris Bosh role. So for LeBron James, I think is ultimately going to hurt his legacy right now, even if he wins one in Cleveland, I don't know if I could put him over Kobe. I don't think I could ever put him over Michael Jordan as far as legacy goes. But I understand the move for Cleveland's standpoint because they're desperate for a championship, and maybe they're looking at it. You know what? LeBron James left us once when we didn't put enough talent around him. Maybe they're worried about that happening again.
Well, you don't kiss his ass.
Man, you okay? I mean, again, I see where you're coming from, but Kevin Love wanted to leave Minnesota because he felt like they didn't put enough talent around him. Before Kobe won his championship without Shaq, he was threatening to leave LA for Chicago. Let's not forget that. These players, they want other pieces around him. They might not want other stars to their caliber, but they want other pieces around him. At least one other All-Star, one other, maybe future Hall of Fame player. The problem is LeBron James, he needs like two. Magic Johnson needs like two. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I don't think that they're going to be kissing LeBron James' backside, but at the end of the day, you have to put talent around these guys or these guys are not going to want to be there. Same thing happened with Carmelo in Denver. Not New York, though. That surprised me, but in Denver, he felt like he had to carry the team all by himself. And that's what these young guys don't realize is that Bill Russell has 11 rings, but Michael Jordan's 6 outweigh his 11 because of the way Michael Jordan did it. These guys, they want the limelight, they want the spotlight, they want as much help as they can get, and then they wonder why people don't compare him to Michael, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, you ain't do it the same way, you know what I mean? You ain't have to struggle like he struggled, So at the end of the day, Andrew Wiggins isn't the first player to ever be traded. Kobe Bryant got drafted by the Hornets. He ended up getting traded to the Lakers, during the draft. So it happens.
Yeah. All right. Look at that, 6:30. Thank God. All right, so now it's time for us to do. Or do you guys have any other topics you want to talk about?
I guess I don't know. The commotion right now has been about whether, for in baseball anyways, about the unwritten rule of retaliation for when a player, especially one of your best players, gets injured due to being hit by a pitch, and then retaliation afterwards in the next game. If not that during that game, but normally it's saved for the next game, where Nestor Frieri just wasn't really doing well, and the Pirates were ahead by a lot against Arizona, and they brought him in, and he threw inside pitch that narrowly hit Goldschmidt, and then threw away, and then tried to come back inside, and then plunked him, and that ended Goldschmidt's season with an injury to his wrist and everything like that. And so, and then the next game, the retaliation, like at the end of the game, like the last inning before the game was about to end, to drill McCutchen in the back, and everything like that. And so, like a lot of the discussions, whether or not that it's that this unwritten rule in baseball should continue because of the severity that it could bring to players, as well as just that the fact that I guess the original intent of the issue that arises is whether or not it's like the coach's fault for bringing in a player that was originally wild or whatnot, and then in a game that was already won, and then taking out a star player, but not on purpose, but on accident, and at the same time, then trying to, or then at the same time, because of the unwritten rule, you think that times have changed and expect the team that will have take the high road, and they don't, and they go after your star, even though that the coach again doesn't bring out your star player at the end of a game, just because to try to protect him from a retaliation, which even still, since the coach didn't take him out, the Pirates coach didn't take McCutchen out, he gets drilled, and so then he still yells, or then it still turns into a heated argument, almost into a possible bench clearing brawl. So that's kind of been the big topic today, or this week, I mean.
Yeah. Baseball is full of babies, man. It's all a bunch of babies. They're the competitive
Maybe
edge.
they're thugs.
And I talked about this a little bit before, but the competitive edge is gone in baseball. I give up trying to explain why brawls happen. I feel like the fact that you have people throwing at other people, the whole unwritten rule. They lost me when they started. When they said, when you had an analyst who had been covering baseball for 20 plus years say that, oh well, just teach him how to cheat better. They lost me when that guy said that. And it's like you hit it. You hit, so somebody hits your guy, you want to go back and hit their star player. That's so stupid to me. Like yeah, it's an eye for an eye, but it's like me and Dawkins had this kind of go. And whatever happened to saying, okay, you know what, you hit my guy, we're gonna knock you for like 6 runs. Like display your aggression and your revenge on the field. And that and that's completely gone in baseball. And where is the managers? Like how are the managers not being held responsible for this? Because at the end of the day, we cannot be senile and think that the managers don't know that they're gonna hit this player. The fact that you have Goldschmidt on the DL and the I'm sorry, Doc, but the Giants weren't going to do anything. All right, this year.
Yeah, they didn't go for a pitcher, man. Did they think Petey's the answer? He's not the answer.
He's not the answer. The Diamondbacks were having a great year, and now they've lost their star player. Like, discipline has to be taken.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing. Athletes are athletes, whether they play baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Everybody who's an athlete has some type of an ego, has some type of a short fuse, and they're easily ticked off by many things. In football, we see it time and time again with these fights and training camp. One thing that's lacking in training camp that you see in a regular season game are refs. There's not too many refs in training camp. And when the refs are there, they don't really control the action because, again, it's training camp. It's brother versus brother, teammate versus teammate. There could be things said in the locker room that carry over to the field, and that's why you may get these fights, during training camp in football. In baseball, to me, the umpires don't have enough of control over the game outside of ball, strike, outs, whatever. I feel like there's not enough punishments. There's not enough strict punishments for these brawls. You know what I mean? So they happen all the time. The unwritten rule to me is just an excuse to go out there and fight. Because, again, if the umpires had more control, then I think that you wouldn't see this happen. If there will be stricter punishments for these brawls, I think you wouldn't see these things happen as much. And I think that's the same thing that you're seeing in football. The one thing that really just ticks me off is, again, like Tox said, is like, what are you guys doing? Like, the game is basically over. The game is in hand. Why start a fight? You know what I mean? And me and Livin talked about all the time. Whatever happened to, okay, you did something that I don't like, I'm going to embarrass you on the field. I'm going to take you deep. You know what I mean? I'm going to hit, for like, I'm going to have 3 RBIs this game or something like against your pitcher. Next time you see him, do what Big Papi did and really show somebody up. I mean, I don't know, but you don't have to fight.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, let's end this stream here. So we end it as we do every Thursday with a minute to preach it, where each of us has a minute to talk about whatever we want to talk about. It could be sports related, entertainment related, life related. I don't care. Who wants to go first?
I'll take it.
All right, take it, my dude. Whenever you're ready, you just tell me when to press the start button, bro.
Push start.
All right. Bink.
Yeah, football's back, but I'm not talking about football.
Oh.
I'm going back to my point that I made with the whole LeBron James thing. It says something about somebody's character when they choose to take the easy way out. And like I said before, Bill Russell, he has 11 championships, but his 11 do not outweigh Michael Jordan's 6. Michael Jordan's 6 outweighs Bill Russell's 11 because in Chicago, we saw, even though Scottie Pippen is a great player in his own right, we saw the difference in skill level between Scottie and Michael. We can't say the same thing with D. Wade and LeBron James his first 2 years in Miami. His first 2 years in Miami, especially his first year, people were saying it was still Dwayne Wade's team. Now, the last 2 years when Dwayne Wade's knees are acting up and stuff, yeah, okay, LeBron James take over. But for the most part, LeBron James, even if he goes down and he wins 7 championships, to me, his 7 won't outweigh Michael Jordan's 6. If he would have won 3, in Cleveland with the cast that was doo-doo, then maybe we could talk. But we can't even have the conversation anymore.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Great job, man.
Yeah. Sorry I went over time.
No, it's good, man. It's all good.
I'll go
it
next.
I go Tox, and then you can go.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I don't want to interrupt nobody, but Jonathan Martin, the guy who got bullied, is starting for my Niners. Shaking my head.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, right tackle right now.
I guess, he just need to find the right team or something.
Well, Jim Harbaugh did recruit him at Stanford, so.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're
football's back, though.
It's not like I have really anything to talk about anyways. I just flap my gums.
Right.
All right, guys, so today I'm going to be talking about Landon Donovan retiring from the MLS, and his whole career may be done. We don't know for sure, but he has made it official that he is going to retire at the end of this year. It was great to see him in the All-Star game, even though I don't really understand what the All-Star game is for, because you're going up against the B-list team of Bayern Munich, but whatever, that's a conversation for a whole nother minute to preach it. But I really do appreciate Landon Donovan, everything that he's done for the United States in terms of making soccer relevant. And, I mean, I grew up watching this guy, and, when I was playing on the playground, I always wanted to be like him. I always wanted to make those runs. I always wanted to make those crosses. I always wanted to make those goals. Be like Donovan, It wasn't be like Michael Jordan for me. It was be like Griffey or be like Donovan. So, much love, much respect. Great career.
Be like Donovan. Only in the sunny beaches of Costa Rica were you saying that. Wasn't be like Mike for me. Be like Landon Donovan.
Be like Donovan. All right. Tox, you ready, man?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, tell me whenever you want to go.
Okay, yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
I guess what I'm going to talk about today is just going to be about the players. Wait, I think you guys talked about a little about the basketball and everything like that, and about the FIBA, how it's not really an official World Cup. But I think they should set up a system where, like, they should have, especially for the Olympics, that they should have anybody that's 23 or 21 and below be able to play. Just so then that would have a lot of the players from the NBA have a lot of their star players not have to worry about that injury, and like soccer does it, and pretty much every other sport in the Olympics do it. Have pretty much the younger athletes be able to just do the athletic events to represent their country and everything like that, and so it showcases their skills, their up and coming skills, and at the same time, if they wanted to make the FIBA grow, then that's when you can let the NBA players play, and then you could potentially actually make that into a FIBA World Cup than what it's not at the moment.
Totally agree.
Totally agree. Nice.
You might have a new running back in Frisco.
Easy.
And Carlos Hyde looking good.
All right. Well, that's our show, guys. Congratulations. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right. If you missed any of the show, feel free to watch it again. Hey, that's what YouTube is for. If you miss it, you can watch it again. So after this stream is done, it'll take a couple minutes to process, but after that, you can go back and watch it all over again. We talked about Derek Jeter. We talked about Ichiro. We talked about the NBA, FIBA tournament. We talked about some other stuff as well. So, yes. And we'll be back here next Thursday, 6:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 Central Time, and 3:30 Pacific Time. You can follow Miles Dawkins 24/7 on Twitter, toxic at toxic 1987 on Twitter, right?
At Seismic 1987.
1987 on Twitter, and you can follow me at 1150 on Twitter and Facebook and PSN and Twitch. I'm everywhere. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. Adios, amigos. You guys have any last words?
Jonathan Martin just fell on his face pulling to the outside. What a joke.
Holding call on Jonathan Martin. Hopefully he'll try and do a lawsuit and says it's bullying.
And
They bully me.
The grass was bullying me as I tripped.
Hunter Pence getting bullied by the Mets fans.
All right, adios.
Yeah.